Hello and welcome back to another Jet2 Guy video. So today I'm going to be looking at my settings for P3D version 4.5 in 2020. Now I have done a video in 2019, but a lot has changed since then, especially in terms of the lighting and the programs I use. So I thought I'd give it an update here. And this is a simple, nice departure out of Edinburgh, just to show you what they roughly look like if you kind of like what you're seeing. Continue watching. It's going to be a slightly longer video, I think around, I don't know, I'm recording this as I'm speaking, around 15-20 minutes, hopefully shorter than that, because I'm going to be covering my settings in Active Sky, PTA, Endeavour, what else have we got, just the general settings in P3D, fibre frame, fraction, dynamic, and, oh yeah, Reshade. That's about it, so sit back and enjoy. Okay, so here I'm in the settings menu for P3D, and if I go to display, I've not changed much since my previous video in 2019, but let's give it a go anyway. So FXAA is always off, texture filtering times 16, anti-aliasing times 4 MSAA, texture resolution 2040 times 2048 as well. Don't need any higher than that. Got a 1080p monitor, that doesn't make a difference. Resolution, set to computer resolution, auto main fill, that just means, what does it mean? I don't know what it means, always got it on though. Frame controls, I set frame rate to unlimited, triple buffering on, and VSync on. There we go. So world, I have LED on ultra, tessellation on high, mesh on 2, set texture resolution on 7, extremely dense, high, extremely dense, normal, low. I only have the reflections on the user vehicles. There's no really point for the rest of these. I could turn it on for clouds. Sometimes it can cause glitches, so I leave it mostly off. And water detail I have on high. Lighting, this is something I have changed. Now I have gone back to using HDR because, as I'll show you later, I've installed a profile in Reshade, and with PTA I've installed this profile which makes HDR look really natural and really good. It still can look quite bright sometimes, like outside, but that's actually quite realistic, so I like it now, especially with these settings, as these are the settings it tells you to put in the PTA profile. Dynamic reflections I have on low, and I have all of these options ticked with shadow quality on high and draw distance on medium, and casting and receiving just set on external and internal vehicles. Weather, that's handled by Active Sky, so I've draw distance all the way up, and well, it's off the scale, so it doesn't even register in P3D, and coverage distance at maximum, and turbulence effects enabled. Okay, so now I'm going to hop over to PTA to show you what profile I've got installed, and remember, all these links I'm going to leave in the description below. Okay, so I've just hopped over to PTA here just to show you what I've got installed. So I haven't changed literally anything from this preset I've downloaded here from RD, and I'll leave that website in the description below, and that website contains the preset for PTA and Reshade, so it's very good. I really like their presets they've provided, especially the ones I'm using at the minute. And as you can see here, this is why I've turned HDR on, as it recommends these settings, so I turned it on and it looked fantastic. So I haven't modified any of these settings. I used to create my own profile, but it never looked as good as this one, so I'm really happy with it, and well done to RD. It's a great profile. So leave it in the description below, and let's hop over into Active Sky. Okay, so I'm going to be going through my settings for Active Sky. Now the general options I find quite boring, but what I'm going to be doing is I'm just going to be going through them, so one by one. Okay, so that's my settings for Active Sky. As you can see, most of them are default, but I have changed a few. So I also ran with Active Sky. I paired it with Active Sky Cloud Art. So there we go. If I just, where's it gone? Just opened it. There we go. And I've got that on full dynamics, which means I get, as it says, the most variation possible. And it's really nice. It is really nice compared to default clouds. I notice it quite a bit. Sometimes the Active Sky, when it's like overcast but not fully, or it's like got cloud layers mixed in, like it would form quite odd weather patterns that you wouldn't see in real life. I would have a layer of stratus with like thick cumulus like embedded within it, and you do get that in real life, but the way they portray it is quite bad. It looks like it's clearly just the two layers mixed together, so it looks quite awkward like that. But for the most part, Active Sky Cloud Art is great. And the settings, I have them at basically 1080p 32-bit, not 1080p 32-bit for everything, so it's a very kind of balanced thing with overcast models set to high performance and everything enabled there. So that's Active Sky, that's Active Sky Cloud Art. And okay, so I've got Reshade open here, and I have done a video about how to install Reshade, so for P3D, so check that out. It's the same settings that I used previously, and it's the same profile for RDV, so it's nothing different. So yeah, check that out if you're interested. It takes about 5 minutes to install. It's really quite quick. Okay, so moving on from Reshade here, I've got EnvTex, and this just provides textures for anything in the sky. Basically, I think I use Active Sky Cloud Art. No, I use these clouds, but I use a mixture of these clouds and the clouds from Active Sky Cloud Art because it's integrated. So that's pretty cool. It kind of does a merger of both of them, which is really nice. And you can change all the resolutions if you want, but these are my settings. I've left them pretty default here, and they look great. As you can see, if I go to the visual option, this is what I've got. So I've literally, as soon as I downloaded it, I left everything on default, and it's really nice. So all I did was make sure it integrated with Active Sky, and it was great. So now I'm going to be looking at what have I not covered. I'm going to be looking at fiber frame dynamic. Okay, so this is a program here which I use to remove a lot of blurries, especially at low altitudes, and to balance my FPS accordingly. So it's called FFTF dynamic, and it takes a setting which you can modify in the P3D config, which what used to be an FSX static, and they made it in Lockheed Martin and made it so it can be dynamic, so it can be changed as you go on the flight, which is really cool. As what you can do is lower altitudes, you have this number set to minimal, and at higher altitudes, 3,000 feet, you have the number set to more of a maximum value. So the principle is, if you're flying at low altitudes, like let's say 100, 200 feet, what you'll usually be doing is you're going to be either just taking off or just about to land, and that's the point where you're going to want the highest FPS prioritized over scenery loading, because you don't want stutters. You're not going to want low FPS into Heathrow, for example, in a landing. You're going to want to try and squeeze out every piece of FPS you can. So what this option does is you can set it here. So at 0, it's 0.01, and at 3,000 feet is 0.40. That means at 3,000 feet, at that point, you're climbing away, and what you're going to be doing is you're going to be looking at your window or whatever, and you're going to be thinking, hey, this scenery is crisp, this autogen's loading fine, and it's all good. And at 3,000 feet, you can sacrifice 5 FPS or whatever. God knows how much it lowers it. But it's really good, in my opinion, for reducing blurries. Okay, so that's been my settings for P3D version 4.5. Hope you enjoyed, and smash like and subscribe if you enjoyed, if they helped you out, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a good night and goodbye.
You bitch like crazy. Love me, hate me, you the one who chased me. Hey, you feel it? I'm chillin'. I'm about to start a chain. You the biggest bitch living. I don't take it lightly. I'm speaking politely. I don't need a mouth.